Cameron Young absolutely bombs the driver. He's up at 180, 190 ball speed. He's one of the longest players in the game. So we're going to have a look at his swing today and see how he generates that power and that consistency. So on the left, we've got down the line. On the right, we've got the face-on view. Now, what I want you to look at from face-on is initial takeaway and his head movement. So what Cameron does is, if we watch this initial head movement, can you see how he rotates his head to the left? So what that enables him to do is generate a lot of rotation through the body, through the neck. Now, it's very, very important for somebody who's limited in mobility to get that little bit of motion this way, as if you're a little bit tight through the neck, it'll be very, very difficult to rotate the cervical spine. So Cameron does a great job here of letting his neck rotate, almost a la Jack Nicklaus, to allow him to turn more freely. It's also worth noting, I bet you that Cameron is left eye dominant, because if he's right eye dominant, it'll be very, very difficult to see the ball with this head movement. So if you are left eye dominant and do struggle with neck rotation, it's a great way of generating a little bit more turn. So that's his sort of takeaway with the head. Let's have a look at the rest of the body, what it does. You'll see a little lateral shift with the pelvis. As you can see there, a little bit of a lateral shift. And then as he gets halfway back, you'll see how wide he is. Those arms are nice and straight. Again, look at that peak of that cap, how much rotation he's got. Really, really powerful takeaway. And then from down the line, you'll see, if we watch that head, you can see that head movement. Again, here, he's going to rotate into that trail hip. And again, get lots and lots of width. You can see how much he's rotated that belt buckle here. Unusual, some guys like Rory or Adam Scott are a little bit more facing the ball, but it's a great way of, again, generating more rotation. I'm going to guess Cameron's not the most flexible guy, might be completely wrong. You'll see this takeaway, traditional one piece, that butt of the club pointing at his belly button, and the club face is nice and parallel to his back line. I love that takeaway, love it for power. So as we move back further, we're going to take him to lead arm parallel. Again, watch that head move and you'll see how he continues to rotate that head, and he's rotating. Look into that right hip, look at around here and the creases on his pants, how he's really rotating into that trail leg. And then from down the line, you'll see this again, he'll rotate. Watch that pocket, right pocket back, something that Butch Harmon used to say to Greg Norman. So that you'll see that right pocket starts to move back. And then if we look there, quite unusual in a sense is, look how dart straight that right arm is. Usually we see guys with a little bit more flex in that trail arm, but Cameron doesn't do that. You can see how straight his arm's there. Now you can see, because he keeps that right arm so straight, look at the width. His hands are so far away from his body. He doesn't have much wrist set, but it's a great way of generating a huge arc, which he can generate more power and speed through doing that. Now, as we wind him up to the top, this is one of Cameron's unique things about his swing, is the pause. And I'm sure you've seen it at full speed. I mean, if I just play this through, you'll see, look how long he pauses there. Unique. It's something that like Hideki Matsuyama does. Not a lot of guys would be able to do it and generate that amount of speed. Works for Cameron. I love that pause as a drill. Not sure many people could actually play golf doing that, but we'll have a look just positionally at the top. You'll see how much Cameron has rotated. Watch that pelvis again, that trail hip. Watch how much he rotates that pelvis. And again, look at the width. Look how high his hands are away from his chest. It's a great, it's like Butch Harmon always used to harp on about width. He has got so much width. You'll also see how high his hands are. Cameron looks quite a tall fella, so he can get his hands nice and high. You see a lot of guys are more deep, you know, if they're a bit shorter like Rory, more behind here. So really wide arc. I just love that position. You'll see how his chest is over the right leg. You'll see how much of his head has actually rotated. If I bring him back from setup, look how much his head has moved and rotated off the ball, something that went out of fashion and sort of when Foley came around with Tiger and tried to keep that head nice and still, whereas Cameron, a bit more old school, gets lateral with that head, a lot of rotation and a lot of width. Now what this does, like I've mentioned before, it creates a huge arc which you can create a lot of power. Now this next move is Cameron's secret to creating a lot of speed. So what I want to look at his lead toe. So as we start down, you'll see that pressure. Can you see that gap dissipating between the lead toe and the ground? There. And then you'll see, if we look on the trail foot, you'll see how that gap between the shoe and the ground dissipates again. So what he's doing is he's driving really hard into the big toe, and that allows him to drive vertically. Think of it like a vertical jump. If you try and jump with your toes up, you're not going to jump very high. So what he's doing is he's loading that big toe that allows him to jump really high and apply a lot of vertical force in the swing. And you'll see just from a dynamic position, look how his chest and his pelvis drop down and to the left. So watch that again, down and to the left. But he's doing that by pressing through the ground through his toes. There. You'll also see this unique leg action that we'll see later on. He's really driving that left leg or left knee out and behind him. You'll see that from down the line. If you watch this left knee, watch these toes as well. Watch how he starts to drive into the ground, drive that left knee towards the target. Look there, boom, into the toes, and that left knee really drives towards the target and then back. Now that takes a tremendous amount of athleticism to be able to do that. You can see how much he has now gained in knee flexion because he's driving through the toes. That's nicely shallowed the club out, but look as well, look how much he has now. We'll bring him down to sort of lead arm. Look at how much he has rotated through the body. That club shaft's, like I say, nice and shallowed out, but look at the amount of rotation. That pelvis is already turned sort of towards the target. You can see on face on, you can really see how that belt buckle's pointing here. Look at that left knee, how it's really turned around that corner. And then he's done a beautiful job of, look where the chest is pointing. It's pointing around here. So we're creating a tremendous amount of torque and stretch shortening cycle in the body, which creates a lot of speed. You can see how he's maintained that angle with the club shaft, creating lag. And I'll talk about this a lot, how that right arm is below his left, which helps shallow the golf club. So a tremendously powerful position right there. And it's really, really athletic. So let's bring him down a couple more frames. And you'll start to see, look how much he rotates and drives that knee forward. And he's driving that left knee back. You'll see from face on, watch this left knee, watch that right knee. Watch how it starts to drive back. Now, very, very unique position in that. Look how far ahead that left knee, is away from that left hip. Now, from a biomechanical perspective, I don't think for longevity that's going to do him much good. I think I'd prefer much more that left knee to be more over or under the left pelvis, the left side of the pelvis. I just think that could create quite a lot of torque through that knee potentially, and also through the foot, because we'll see, I'll get rid of those lines to clear it up, is watch as he presses through the ground, through his toes. that left foot is going to roll. There we go. It rolls onto that lateral border of that foot, and you can see that when you're swinging at 125, 130, that's a lot of force through that lead leg, lead ankle, lead knee. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some injuries in future from Cameron Young just with that movement. But it's very, very athletic, and you can see if we just look at it from a golf swing standpoint, again, look how much he rotates through, try and stop at impact. Like, that's just ridiculous. Look at where his pelvis is pointing out at the target. That chest has really opened up. I'll try and bring him down again to impact. There you go. You can see how much he's rotated the pelvis. Those buttons on his shirt are pointing out at the target. It's tremendous amount of athleticism. He's drove off that big toe of the trail foot. That trail knee's driving inwards. And then because he's pushed so hard, he's pushed that left foot. We'll bring it a couple more frames off the ground. You can see that. Look, boom. Brings it off the ground and back. It's something that you see in a lot of long drive guys. Watch this. It's very hard because the camera's not the best on this, but look, you can see how it just pings back. Like I say, it's a move that you'll see in a lot of long drive guys, that left foot pinging back, just because he's applying so much pressure through the toe and it's pushing off the ground, and then it flings him back this way. It's something that you see Bryson's trying to do. You'll see Bryson really flinging that foot round back here. Kyle Berkshire does it. It's a great way of generating power. And you'll see as well, look how wide he maintains that width through the ball. Look at that width. Keeps the width on the backswing, keeps the width on the downswing. It's a tremendously, I can't say it enough, tremendously athletic move. Does it stand the test of time? Well, we'll see. I don't think he's that old, Cameron Young. I'm assuming he's in mid-late 20s. But it's a phenomenally powerful action. He may have to change a few things as he gets a little bit older and his body doesn't move as well. But like I say, it's tremendously athletic, and he can have maybe a short career, but I can guarantee you it's going to be a very, very successful one. And I mean, let's look at the finish. Reminds me almost of Scotty Scheffler here, or Tiger back in the early days, how that club's wrapped around him, that body's really rotated, and that pelvis is nice and high. So what I mean by that is, look how much that pelvis has changed in terms of the up and down movement. So it's here, drops down, and then boom, up in the air. And that's what I was talking about when I was talking about that lead foot and trail foot and those big toes, how much you can push off the ground to generate speed into the club. And that's reflected by, again, that pelvis move of moving down and then up. Great move for power. I love this guy's swing. I do worry a little bit of the longevity to it, but I'm very, very confident that Cameron Young's going to have a very, very successful career.